Yesterday was American Independence Day. A lot of people think of that as a celebration of the time that America became independent from Great Britain. I tend to think of it as something greater than that. It was the first time in human history that a group of people said that humans possess inalienable, universal rights that are not granted to them by a government. They're granted to them by the Creator, and thus cannot be removed by any government, cannot be infringed upon by any government. And so I think of it as the first step towards universal human rights. Now, of course, it's taken us fits and starts to expand our definition of what a human was. So in that way, our founders were ahead of their time. But, you know, we're really pretty doggone close now, at least in our definition. But the problem is that people think of those precepts as being enshrined in American government and American culture. They're not. Our founders did the best they could to set up a system of government that would not ultimately infringe on human rights, but they knew full well that that is exactly what every government does. They knew full well that no government is ever the answer. No government is ever going to remain limited in scope and not infringe on human rights. And so we, as inheritors of that way of life, we who have been privileged to be born on soil where these rights are acknowledged, it's really our responsibility to continually fight our government, continually fight government overreach. There's, you know, honestly, we are not there now. The American federal government is too large and too powerful, and has been for a long time. There's simply too much power concentrated in those hands. And at least as long as I've been alive, what's worse, the checks and balances barely exist. Administration after administration on both sides of the aisle tend to rule by executive fiat. And we make the mistake, you know, when there's somebody in power who we agree with, we cheer when they use executive fiat, and then the tables turn and we all fear executive fiat. Executive fiat is the problem. There is no way that the President of the United States should be making the sorts of decisions that they do. And our system of government was erected in such a way that they shouldn't be able to. The judicial branch has done some good to protect us from executive fiat. The legislative branch flat out sucks and has absolutely failed to do that. You know, when was the last time that we went to war based on a declaration of war by the legislative body? We go to war now on the say-so of the executive branch, which is just, it's wrong. It's wrong for us, and it's wrong for the rest of the world. Again, our founders recognized universal human rights. That is our heritage, that is our responsibility, and we must understand that there is no government that is the answer. Our government is not the answer, and you know, government is a necessary evil. We need some sort of framework that allows us to live together and do a few things together, both nationally, regionally, globally, but the nature of government is always to grow in scope, always to overreach its boundaries, always to trample on human rights. That is what government is. It is a cancer. It's not a solution to a problem. It is an ongoing problem. And you know, I would urge every one of you who is privileged to be born here to actively fight against the federal government and to do everything you can to decentralize its power, to focus on flowing power downwards to the states and even municipalities. You know, we basically, you know, every 4 years we have this big theater about, you know, which person's going to be elected to the executive branch. And you know, everybody either breathes a sigh of relief or cries in pain when it happens, we really shouldn't care who's the president. They shouldn't have enough power that it really makes any bit of difference to us who's in power. That's the problem. The problem is the power of the federal government, and we must fight that. So those are my Independence Day thoughts here in an aspen grove in Colorado.